Here we go. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to our artifact validation issue breakdown session. Probably one of the last sessions of this year. This meeting also adheres to the CNCF Code of Conduct, which basically boils down to be mindful what you say and be excellent to each other. And with that, I would like to hand it over to Lori.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Nice for everybody to join. Seeing some new names. That's great. Basically, what we're going to do is take a look at each of the items that we created in past sessions on how we want to approach the artifact validation work and try to put as many details in these items as we can so that they're much easier to hand off to contributors so that you have all the context you need to get started and don't have to like ask people and look for things as much. So I guess this is largely contributor experience related. Does anybody have any questions before we get started? Okay. So I'll go from right to left because we have one item already in progress. And I guess if we want to put the link to the board, so everybody can follow along. Okay. Let's get started with this item, which is in progress by Sasha, I think. Yep.
Yeah, I already started collecting. So unfortunately, we missed it for the final release, or we started it for the final release, and then we didn't took over the work on actually measuring the rest of the time because we were busy with some exceptional PR, which should have landed. So, but in general, I think we have a good feeling about how long the releases take now. And the question would be, what do we want to do with that data now?
Well, I would say if it's a table, for example, showing how long the stages are taking.
Yeah, it's the comment below.
And then any details related to that, like any observations, things that are noteworthy. This part of the release took this amount of time because the job got stuck or took a long time. You know, anything that you notice about how the systems were running, what was causing them to be slow, that would be useful. I would make a table breaking it down into every stage in the release process, observations of note, and then sharing that with the group. I guess you could also share with SIG testing, Kate's Infra. That makes sense to share with them since they run some of the tooling that's related to this process. They own it.
Yeah.
I guess they can't help much potentially because most of the release process is owned by us.
Yeah.
And maybe as an experiment, if you scroll down a little bit, just for the table that Sasha created,
I didn't see it was
one
already.
thing that maybe we could try is, for example, for one of the patch releases, is that we try to time exactly how much what step is taking time. For example, how much we take to build the binaries, to sign them, to do all these steps, for example, that is a stage in release and so on, so that we try to determine if we can optimize there. Like I have a look at this data, and this is somewhat similar to what we have in the release tracking issue, but I think we can't really optimize based on that. So we have, for example, from this table, we can see that building packages can take a lot. So we have to see if we can optimize on that. Eventually, we could maybe try to go like more granular and see if there's like each step that can be improved to take less time, because from that we can't really see that information. I'm not sure if Sasha has some opinion on that, if we should try something like that the next time.
Yeah, I think we can just try to add more detail
Yep.
like tomorrow when we got the patch releases.
Yeah. I would suggest running this, one or two more times just to see if it is consistent. And then maybe some
Yeah.
screenshots showing processes, if they're getting stuck, or if they're slow, what does it look like?
Yeah, I think we can do it right away tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. And then I guess it would be, this item could be closed out once you add your data and then share.
Yeah, do we also want to include a conclusion or something like this afterwards?
I would say, recommendations for action based on the data,
Yeah, sounds good.
with the eye toward improving the whole process and the other topics that we talk about. Okay, this one is the next item in our backlog about security. So this is about supporting the goal of breaking up the image promoter monolith by closely examining the code and describing how we could pursue more modular design while avoiding potential security risks. So it sounded from Marco in the past that you bumped into some security risks involved in like refactoring the code. So this would be like, what are those? What are the workarounds?
I would say that we need, I'm not sure, sorry, I did take a deep look into the board, sorry about that. But what we need for this issue is to try to figure out how we could split the promoter. And then once we have that decision, like, okay, that part might go out, we need to take the evaluation of security implications for that decision. So there is like a prerequisite to that task to be able to determine if we can do that. I'm not sure. Yeah, we would have to discuss it with folks who initially worked with the promoter to see if there's anything that can be split, and then based on that decide for this issue.
It sounds like a chicken and egg problem. I mean, you're always going to have to think about security risks before you consider breaking things apart. And then you have to consider security risks after you break things apart. I think the goal here is like to get it done, right? So if the work is splitting things up, it sounded like last time it was the reverse. That splitting things up was difficult because of these potential security risks. So you got to just pick where you want to start.
I have a quick question. So when someone said security risks, did they actually explain what they were talking about? Or was it just a generic comment?
That's a good question.
Maybe we could drop the security from there. Like, what are
Yeah,
risks?
because one thing that's not going to change is the runtime or where this thing is going to run in. That always runs in what we would consider a secure environment. The rest of the pieces are all tied to the architecture, which is currently unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, to Marcus' point, this is a low priority ticket.
It's a low priority ticket?
Well, in the sense that when I asked earlier, did somebody articulate specific security concerns? And the answer was no one's articulated one yet. My point is, if the architecture isn't finalized yet, let's finalize that first, and then security concerns should become clear at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Like without a working architecture in my hand, it's very hard to make a security assessment.
Yeah. Okay. Does everybody agree with that? Okay. So we can drop this toward the end after we gain a clear understanding of what we're working with. I'll just put it there for now. Let's move it down a bit. With that in mind, here's an item that gets to the heart of understanding the architecture better.
Yeah. So I think we should define what we expect, or what we expect for pre-validating, or what is the requirement for promoting an image, for example, or any artifact. So for example, we could say, do we recommend to provide an SBOM, which can then be validated against that artifact before we actually promote it? And as a result of that, we would say, okay, we don't create SBOMs during the promotion at all. So
To what Sasha said, this feels like a kind of a thing where we have to define what is a requirement to have your image in registered Kuberentes SIO.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually where input from SIG testing, SIG8, SIG maybe some other SIGs would be very valuable.
Okay. So first, forming an actual requirement based on input from those groups, maybe others, but starting there. And then you'll be in a better place to answer such questions like this one.
Yes, and while we are there, we should
Writing.
also involve SIG security.
Okay. How would you like to collect that input?
I think the best way to collect input is to start some proposal coming from SIG release, and then share that proposal with other SIGs to take a look and add comments.
Okay. What others think? Anybody have a different approach?
I agree with that. I do want to see a proposal first, and then we can amend it, make suggestions, etc. But today, the requirement today is very simple. The image has to exist. If it doesn't exist, the promoter bugs out and says, no, I can't do what you've asked me to do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing a proposal from SIG release, and then we can chime in and say, this is what's missing, or these are all the considerations that you have to make.
Okay, so you agree. Does
Yeah.
anybody else have a different approach?
I just
Okay.
want to comment on one thing about the proposal. Just to make clear, yeah, the proposal shouldn't be technical. It should really, it shouldn't talk about implementation much at this time. It should talk about what we consider to be valid image to be promoted. So we will figure out the implementation part later, but we want to figure out requirements. What are we going to check? For example, if we are going to check SBOM, if we are going to check the signature or something like that.
Okay, let's be structured about this, because my next question is, what is the outline for the proposal? So let's list the sections that you want to answer the questions. First of all, can you already define the core problem to be solved?
Yeah, so that would be, what do you need? What should an image have for it to be a candidate for a promotion?
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll ask the question, and the answer today is it has to exist. some things that we would like to see is, for example, an image should have an SBOM attached to it. One of the nice things we would like to see, for example, is there should be a build provenance attached to it as well.
Build provenance attached?
Yeah, attached, signed or unsigned, to be determined later. Those are some of the things we would like to see.
Okay, so that's one section that you would explore, the build provenance being attached, maybe going into the signed or unsigned status, giving pros and cons of both. What else?
One important thing that we mentioned is how are we going to handle CVEs? Like, do we want, like, on what are we going to insist when it comes to number of CVEs? If we are going to insist on anything, that's an important question.
Sorry, if you're going to a system?
Yeah, to insist on having like no critical CVEs or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. So I think it's better to phrase it as images must have gone through a CVE scanner before being promoted, with a requirement of no particular class of CVEs being available. Sorry. Images need to go through a CVE scanner, and certain classes of CVEs are unacceptable for promotions.
I really like this phrasing.
Well, that's what you're saying earlier. It's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah. Okay, and then you would probably dig into a bit on what these certain classes might be.
Well, that's where security gets involved. They can say what classes we find unacceptable. If you can't fix it, here's our approach, exceptions, blah, 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 whatever. That's security purview generally.
Yeah, but you said you want to have a proposal to show them, so you're triggering them to get involved by
Yeah.
taking a statement, even if it's, we're not going to declare this ourselves, we want to invite SIG security to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what else might be necessary for this proposal? What other considerations?
I think those are the core ones. The other thing that's just missing is SBOMs. That's it. Those are like the three key things we kind of want to see. The technical details will be discussed later, but at a functional level, this is what we would like to see in images provide for their promoted.
Sounds like a good start. I think I missed a verb here. What should an image have for it to be a candidate for promotion? So if you have a 1 or 2 page proposal that cover these topics, then the other 6 can look, get involved, give feedback. And then after that, get into the implementation. Does anybody here want to actually work on this proposal now that you have an outline for it?
I could help with it.
Okay. I don't have permission to add. But here is the issue. I'll just send it to the chat. You can add your. Anyone else? I don't know how your workload is these days, Marco, so.
I'm happy to chime in and write part of this proposal.
Great. Okay, just add yourself as an assignee. Nice. Okay, so I think we have a start on that. Let's go to the next item. Finding out why this job takes so long.
Oh, this has been discussed forever, but TLDR is it's in part related to the idea of how long should image promotions take. So we're gonna baseline that first. I think somebody was working on that. But on a more technical detail, on a more technical level, we implemented rate limiting some time ago to make sure that the registries do not get abused by the public, and that rate limiting technology affects legitimate users like us, like the image promoter who needs to do substantial reads and writes that an end user would never be making. That's one reason why it takes long.
Okay.
It doesn't help the fact that we also promote it to multiple regions. So that's why it happens. As for fixes,
That's another issue.
yeah,
We're just finding out. So if you're saying that we already have pretty clear ideas about why, if you could leave that as a comment on this issue, then
I could comment on there and say why I think
Yeah.
so today.
yeah. So this is the issue.
125, okay, 1125. Yeah, for now.
Yeah, and anybody else who has insights into this, just add your comments and then we can leverage the data for the decision making, which I think I made a different issue for him. Yeah. Well, yeah, this is the job about, or this is the issue about why the job should take so long. And then we have this about what's an ideal length for Kubernetes promotion. And if you just want to focus on that job in this issue, then I could do that.
Yeah, that's fine. You know what? I'll let Secret Release work this one out. In the meanwhile, I'm gonna go and answer the questions of what the technical, what are the time limits imposed by Google Cloud are actually, or the ones that we've done as well. And then we can see if we can reconcile the two answers.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Go ahead.
So the rate limiting is not affecting the length of execution from a release process because it was already long before we put that in place. If you check all the issue regarding either patch release or general release, we were always basically 40 minutes long before we put rate limiting in place. And rate limiting, it was more like we're currently matching GCR. We use GCR rate limit as a baseline to define the rate limit on the artifact registry. So the length of execution for release process is not different. It's just one of the things we did is having multiple repository, and that's affecting the length of execution. Because historically we had 3 container registry to now more than 10. That's a side effect because now the promoter need to be push all those images over mostly the Google, I would say, artifact registry infrastructure and serve that because we want to basically maintain the cost of egress for the image layers.
Mm-hmm. I know, can you make sure that your insights get captured on that and possibly this issue? Just a couple bullet points.
Oh, I will put a comment in the issue.
Okay, that would be helpful because then we might be able to just close that one out and then talk about the broader, how long do we want this process to take? But it's a core part of it, so.
Je peux rentrer dans le détail, mais par contre, il faut voir que carrément, c'était SIG, en fait.
Uh-oh, I think something happened with the sound. It was a little muffled. Can you repeat it? Let's see, there's something in the open. Yeah, I understand. That happens. We'll come back to you if you sort out your sound issue. Just raise your hand and I'll let you go because I didn't get most of what you said. Okay, great. Okay, so I think this one, 1125 again, Mohammed, you would own it to the extent of putting your comments there, but if you don't feel like assigning it to yourself, that's fine too. We just want to get everybody's comments.
Yeah, I'll comment on that and assign it to myself.
Great.
And add the comments that Arno just mentioned.
Okay.
And then dig up a few more things.
Thank you so much. Let's move to this one then. Do we verify the image digest and does the reference actually exist? So the goal here was to support the goal of breaking up the image promoter monolith by investigating the questions raised below, describing and documenting the current process for verifying whether the image digest and reference exists, and evaluate, did we create an image using appropriate tools and process? Would scanning for CVEs be a blocker? That came up in the other issue. If yes, could we require provenance? That also came up. Would inference staging help make it faster than a complete image push-pull not in place today? Could we ensure that the SHA is valid? How do we scan the image for any higher critical CVE? This is, also getting more input from others as part of the research. Requires a just brief proposal describing like what to do and pros and cons. And then here was a bunch of context shared at one of our past conversations, I think largely by Arno. So what do we think about this one?
So this
Yeah, I
one
say
needs to
it's
be done after the other one.
It sounds like the other one?
No,
Or
it needs to be done after the other one because
it comes after. Okay.
Yeah, because there's some technical discussions here which we would like to have after the functional requirements done.
Right. So it comes after 1129, right? Yeah. Okay. I just saw you. There you go.
so I guess this is going to be a technical follow-up on the 1129.
Okay.
Like, how are we going to do it? If I got what Mohammed said, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is more about how we're going to do what we think the image promotion process should look like. It would be great to sign that off first, because then this conversation becomes very focused. Because then everybody's clear on what we're actually building.
Yeah. So I guess it wouldn't make much sense to talk about it because you have the other digging to do first, yeah? It's just like you can
And
keep
I'm
them.
wondering.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm wondering if we should move it to blocked this time.
You can. Yeah. I mean, just to make it really clear that no one should work on this until let's see, can I add that label? I can't.
We can move it to the blocked column on the left,
Ah,
if that works.
yeah. Okay. Moving to this one, user research, find out who are the users and downstream consumers of Kate's releases. So I asked Jeremy to share the survey from Kate's Infra with me. He said there's about 200 responses, and that might be able to help us, barring that being useful. We can do some surveys in community and CNCF to get the word out. I just need to see what his survey looks like first. Anybody else have any other recommendations?
And Cluster Lifecycle used to do a survey about
Yeah.
basically, say Cluster Lifecycle used to do surveys. Maybe you can book. I think Lubomir is on the call. I know once a year there's like surveys about like upgrade and Cluster Lifecycle. So I don't know if you can look at that data in the
Yeah.
past to see if they're basically we can identify who is basically. But
Thanks.
we already have communities of users like hyperscalers, I'll say people building Kubernetes on top of basically product on top of Kubernetes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those kind of people.
Yeah. Can do. Yeah, I guess broadly we know the types of users. It would be nice if somebody had just like a list, here we did it for you, and like here are like the top 10 types of users.
We should probably involve C contributors comms here as they work on communication stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We have in Sigilist, we quite a lot use that Kubernetes announce mailing list,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure it's actually part of any process beside release and security. So we should reevaluate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's also like survey fatigue. So if people took the Kate's Infra survey and they're like, oh no, here's another one, we just want to balance out.
One thing that is, sorry.
No, go ahead.
One thing that's a little bit risky here is that this is a little bit outside the scope of image promoter. This is something like that really affects the whole community in general. I'm not sure if you have a ticket for that, but what we would like to find out here is once we know who to reach out to, is like how they use the images and
Mm-hmm.
what they expect to have in our images. Like, do they want test bombs? Do they want signatures, provenance, sign, not sign, so on. So to be able to reach to see what are people expecting, because that's going to help us to shape the implementation eventually.
We have a little bit of that hinted in the first two items, but yeah, you took your notes for more detail. I don't know.
So I'm just curious about basically if we identify those people, how this is help us to basically make the artifact validation more robust.
I think this is attached to like we're focusing a lot on the image promoter right now because it's the core tool that in the process and it needs some work. But we earlier had this item being much broader, bringing in the SALSA compliance and just general, what we're giving over to these users with the releases. Like, is it broken or not? Can they trust it or not? So the image promoter is just like one facet of that. It drives everything else. It was explained, at least in the past, as that like it's the kind of the foundation for anything else, like policy related or experience related. The users are different for the overall broader goal. Users for image promoter, all of you, and then once that works, then we take it higher to the community users. Does that help? We're just kind of like the iceberg right now. the iceberg being image promoter and how it works.
Okay.
But in the meantime, if we collect this feedback, then it will help shape other decisions. From Victor, maybe Brandon Mitchell should be involved. He leads the OCI initiatives, including standard security artifacts. Yeah, maybe so. Let's put that in the issue.
Yeah, one thing like that shouldn't be surprising to this is the work we are doing here is maybe going, depending on how we define it, is going to affect one or two type of users or one or two group of users, because a lot that are using hyperscalers, the various offerings are, a lot of those products are building their own images and binaries and everything. So they don't benefit from anything we do here, more or less.
But they want the release to be reliable. You know, they don't want to have issues with it when they get it and when they intercept it. And I think that was the thinking of the group. Like it's this, you know, so I can trust the release is secure when I intercept it and I start my own processes internally. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Yes.
This is my personal interpretation, but most of the consumers, and basically I'm scoped that to hyperscalers and people building product on top of Kubernetes. Basically, we build everything. We build all the artifact they use. So the notion of trust don't apply to them because they pull the source code and build everything. So they don't need Kubernetes to build Salsa 3 or 2. I would say if from just an hyperscaler perspective, because as an hyperscaler, I'll pull the code base or basically pull all the source code needed to build something. I do that myself.
Right.
So the notion of trust don't apply to all releases. People basically trusting us are those people using custom installers or build an internal platform based on Kubernetes, or we say vanilla Kubernetes. So we have to be careful about exactly the scope of this research.
I totally agree. I'm sorry, I don't think I got custom installers. What were the other two that you mentioned?
Yeah, custom installers like Spray or KOps, those kind of things.
But you had mentioned two other kinds of people trusting us.
End users building Kubernetes environment, or because they don't have the choice, they can go to the cloud.
Right.
Those kind of things. Like the hype term is sovereign cloud.
Yeah. No, this is great. You're totally correct. This is why we need to ask this question and really think about it. So I think we have a couple of other leads now for data. Thank you. And also people we can reach out to for collecting more data if we have to. But yeah, this is great. I was going to work on this. I think Joseph wanted to as well. Anybody else who wants to work on it, just raise your hand. We can do it. The next item is achieving a decision on whether we need to validate signatures from staging in parallel. I think this is dependent on some of those other issues, right? Like 1129.
Yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if it's just from staging or if we're talking about also when the promotion is going on.
put it in the blocked column. This is basically, question was, should we promote images that weren't built by a Google Cloud build, hosted in tamper-proof build system, job triggered by Prowl? Maybe a reconciliation job that handles this as a regular CI task would work. Pushing one image from staging into one production registry would be the minimal amount. Could we minimize even further? But these kinds of questions, but I guess you need more insight onto those other topics before coming to any conclusions about that. I'm just checking to see if this was, but I think this is a duplicate that I made. I'll close it.
No, actually, that's not.
It's not, okay, I
duplicate.
forgot, wasn't sure. 'Cause this,
But yeah, sorry,
it's
go ahead.
mentioned here, should we promote images? And then this one is roughly the same.
Yeah, so about that, I think we really need a spike task that's actually going to be research if it is possible to promote something that's not built by Google Cloud. And I
Let's make
mean,
that
it is the chicken egg problem again. If we want to promote, I mean, if it satisfies the criteria we propose, then yes. And how are we going to do that? Because I know that, for example, there are sub-projects that are using GitHub Actions. We do that a lot in SIG release. I know some of the other SIGs using GitHub Actions. Do we want to accept images and allow them to push to staging from GitHub Actions? Arno, you have a hand up.
I think Tim is trying to talk, but he's not capable to talk. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on.
So Tim, if you want to write everything in Zoom chat, I will just go. I think my question is like, what's the problem do we have with Cloud Build before we basically say promote image? What are the problems we have currently? Because Cloud Build is basically Salsa 1 by default. I think they're also Salsa 2 in some extent. So I'm like, what problem do we have currently with Cloud Build? And we're trying to solve with another build system.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a performance issue? Do we have an infrastructure issue? Is there a security problem? What?
Mm-hmm.
So I can provide an example of that.
Can you
for
I just want to be mindful of time. Can you write it in the issue? Because we'll lose it here. So can
okay,
you,
sounds good.
yeah. So I guess if you want to do that. Yeah, if you just drop it here and get the conversation going, that will be great. And then if we don't need the issue anymore, we can close it. We talked about the ideal length for a case promotion. I think that's currently blocked pending more information, like what's realistic balancing with ideals.
I think
And
that
then,
it would be actually nice to answer that.
well, we
Like,
know,
what do
well,
we consider ideal?
yeah, but it should be rooted in what's possible. And I think you're still figuring that out.
Well, yeah, but I think it's going to provide like, because we have some, I don't want to call it misunderstanding, but like what is the exactly problem in the line of the promotion? Because if you take for the most of promotion, is like, it is pretty quick. The biggest problem is the release promotions. And then we should like figure out, it should provide like a pointer to what we want to achieve eventually.
Okay. So it's not blocked.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider it necessarily blocked.
All right. I mean, the way I would approach this would be to collect data showing what is possible, and then using that to make my declaration of what is ideal. But that might not take that long to bring up, to get that data with the other issues.
Yeah.
1126 is a problem for the official case releases, not the sub-projects. Okay. I will put that in the issue just so that it's quite clear to everyone. Come on. Okay, and then formalizing the process. I would say this should hold off until you've got more data. Okay, we've gone through everything. Does anybody have any thoughts, comments, maybe about the whole package of issues, something missing? What's on your minds?
I just want to thank you for creating all those issues and this board did everything. Great job. It
Yeah,
helps a lot.
yeah, no problem. I know some people came here asking to help out. I mean, now's the chance to put your name on some things and get started. Like, here's some issues, they need help. If it's not blocked, it's ready to go. Okay, I guess, you know, if you're not ready now, you can think about it and then get back to us in the team channel with things you'd like to work on. Yeah. Yeah, Princess is a lot for a first time, a lot of details, but you know, oftentimes we just get started by shadowing other people who have been in the project longer. So if a particular aspect of this work is interesting to you, that might be how I would get started. You know, oh, I like security, I want to help out with that. Just something like that is a good way to get involved. Prereq to grabbing tickets, not necessarily. You just basically need to express interest. And I would say that if it's completely new territory, don't do it alone.
Yes, I would like to plus one what Lori said. If this is new to you, we are happy to pair up and just SIG release or release management or Slack, reach out and we will find someone from the release management team to come and pair for a ticket.
So Princess would like to work with somebody on the security topic. Do we have somebody who can claim that one now? And then we can get her started. Oh no.
I can try to help because there's a I would say there's an intersection with getting from at some point. So I can
Mhm.
help with
I
that.
agree. That sounds right. I'm trying to just put the issue in the chat for you. Yeah, here we go. So yeah, if you put your name there and then if you can add Princess. Yeah, so Tim, I guess that's a general question about how the release process works. This work is very specific to shaping how the process works in the future. So it's really about working on the process and the tooling. General release methods would be discussed in like the community meeting, for example. Okay, I think we
Yeah,
can.
maybe it's
I was
yeah.
just gonna say, but go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, for folks who are looking to learn more in general about this SIG release ways of our working, we have the release team shadow applications open. So
Yeah.
you can consider that and join the team. It is a great opportunity to learn more about Kubernetes releases.
Yep. Okay, I think we're done. Thanks to everybody who joined. This is always iterative, so we added another layer of context to this work to get clarity. That was our goal. Goal achieved. I guess I'll see you tomorrow in the community meeting.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
See you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.